Hello there, my name is Barry, and in this video I want to take you on a tour of my little music room here, my studio, my teaching room, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to take you and show you every nook and cranny of the place and every single thing that makes the place tick and operate the way that I need it to. This type of video is going to be useful for loads of different people out there. So for example, musicians that want to set up their own studio at home. I might not know where to start, I might not know what's available or how to use it in such a small space. This is a really small room that I've got. It's also useful for parents of students of mine if they want to see exactly how I operate and how things work. So let's get stuck straight into it. I'm going to come in the door and show you exactly what I see every day and what students see when they come in here. So starting off, we come to the front door. There's my little Folge sign there, and this is the room. So I'll take you straight in, you can have a look. This is not a big room, and I've managed to pack a lot into this room. So let's start off right here. This is one of those Marshall key thingies, and this is where I keep my big to smalls. That's Erin and me when she was a little baby, and headphone amp and stuff like that. Here is a picture I was given, and here is our Lord and Saviour Eddie. Then I've got my first guitar rack. This is just where I keep some guitars and the ukulele. That's one cable. And then my wife's idea was to hang straps as like curtains, so I quite like that. In the corner we've got all my little knickknacks. We've got my Pokeballs and my Stranger Things and first Power Rangers team, and then I've got like some other knickknacks here at the back. But let's have a look at what I call the learning station. There's 3 learning stations, and at each station there is an electric drum kit, 1, 2, 3. There is a cajon that doubles as a stool, 1, 2, 3. And there's also this. Now at each station we have headphones, we have a Sonicake Pocketmaster, which is just phenomenal. Each one of them is charging, and each one of them goes into a little A/B switch. And each one of them has this little contact microphone. And I'm going to show you how this is all controlled once I get over to the desk, and I'll show you exactly what I use for that. But each learning station is set up for drums, for guitar, bass, both acoustic guitar and electric guitar. First of all, the first drum kit I have is the Roland TD-17, which is an absolute beast. And on either side of that then we have a Yamaha DTX-402 kit. And as you can see, the Pocketmasters are all different colors. We've got a green one, we've got a purple one, and then we've got a white one. And that is what sort of and we differentiate those over here, but I will show you how that all operates in a minute. Over here at the back we also have just some pedals and other knickknacks and stuff along those lines. And underneath here, there we go. That is, if you can see it, and I get a drumstick. So underneath here is where things sort of come together. You can see that there is a DI channel for the white Sonicake, the purple, the green, and then another DI channel each for each drum kit. And then there is a stage box there that brings everything over to the main mixer. This was an absolute nightmare to set up and took me so long. And as you can see, my cable management does leave a little bit to be desired. However, it keeps me out of trouble and it works, so I'm quite happy with it. Over here we have some more, my main Power Rangers team. And we've got some Eddies and then some Star Wars up the top. This TV is specifically for the drummers to be able to see what's happening on the music, or sometimes I've got another TV here. Sometimes the student that's sitting there can't see past me because I'm sat there, so they would look at that. It just means that no matter where you go, everyone is able to see the music and what's happening. Then along the wall we have whatever guitars I'm using. These tend to be my day-to-day guitars, so the ones that I use the most are my Destroyer and my Frankie. But I also have my Kramer hanging here because students, that's the most student friendly electric guitar that I have. And I also have this little Coco one that kids will often use as well if they come in, they don't have their own guitar. And that's just one of my ukuleles. This is part of my guitar collection. The other half of it is like everywhere else. So now we get to the sort of the heart of the control station of the studio here. First of all, the entire studio is managed by with a Behringer X Air 18. So if I move this slightly, you can see an absolute jumble of cables in there. And I'm going to show you exactly what all of those things are. It is controlled on my iPad right here. There's me. Hi. It's controlled on my iPad there, and you can see that everything has a channel. So the learning stations, white, purple, and green, are controlled there, and then the drum kits are also labeled. And I've just got one button here that if I want to mute all the guitars are muted. If I want to unmute them, they're all muted. If I wanted to mute the drums, all drums. And if also I wanted to mute the monitors. What I mean by monitors is the headphones. This is a random new edition. This is my tape player that I'm just so happy with, and there's more and more tapes arriving every single day. It makes me so happy. So the way that the studio is wired up is from each learning station, green, purple, and white. They all arrive back in here to these wireless units. And as you can see, they're also labeled purple, green, and white. So if we take the purple one, for example, and plug in, I can control over here, hello Aaron, on the app. I'm going to turn off this light, actually, I don't need this light. I can control over here on the app that I know the Pocketmaster BLE is the purple one. And I just connect to that, and then I can control exactly what's happening on the purple one from here. So I've got some patches pre-saved. The first one is acoustic, which I will show you in a second. At the moment it's set to overdrive, so let's just double check that that's what's happening over here. And that is indeed set to overdrive. But if I come over here and I wanted to have, for example, a bass guitar, I go pick bass, and that has updated all the parameters in here. And it has also updated on the device itself. Meaning that a student can come in, sit down right here with their bass guitar and plug in there, and there's no need to have any amps, and they can control what they're hearing in their own headphones via the XR18. And each one of those stations works exactly the same. For the acoustic guitar, let's go to acoustic. I have a different set of effects. If we come back over here, that's what this switcher is for. If they want to hear themselves in the headphones, they would simply push this button. There's no power going to this, but this is a passive button, and it doesn't need power. And it swaps from the wireless system over here to this little contact microphone right here. And you can actually hear that. And they clip this onto their guitar, and then they can hear all of the effects coming from this in their headphones or coming through the speakers. I've really tried to cater to as many different styles and as many different instruments and experience levels as humanly possible. Now, I'm never going to cater for everybody. I'm never going to be able to cater for everybody, but I've really tried to. A lot of thought went into those learning stations, and it's working really, really well for me. I'm really, really pleased with how it's working. Now, if we come back over to this app, which is Mixing Station, and that's what I use to control the XR18. Every single thing in the studio is plugged in, and each student has their own individual headphone mix. You can see they're labeled here: right kit, left kit, Roland, and that refers to which learning station, but they're all labeled purple, white, or green to correspond to what learning station you're at. So let's, for example, have a look at the green one. So over here, they have, I'll explain what the mic is in a second. The Laney is my amp right here, and that's my pedal board that I plug into wirelessly also through this little switcher. There's two outputs coming to that. I'm going to show you that in just 1 second. But as a default mix, the student is able to hear my microphone when I'm speaking to them in the headphones that I can control by this button. And it's that microphone right there. So if I push this button, you can now see that there's signal coming in and the student can hear that in their headphones. And if I push that button now, the microphone is off. It just means that if the student is in the middle of a song and they go out of time, for example, I can push the button, say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they're back in, they're on time, and I haven't had to stop the song, haven't had to interrupt them. They can also hear their own green guitar, that's up, and they can also hear the green, they can also hear the right hand kit. So it's on the right hand side. I'm actually going to relabel these green because that would be green, white and purple because that just makes way more sense. I also here have a drum machine that they can hear, and this fader here, this red fader is the USB. That is the music that they're hearing back from the computer, from the backing track that they're playing along to. Now, as well as being able to control each individual headphone mix from my main mixing station, each student has access to MX Bus, which is just an app on their phone that gives them access just to their own headphone mix, so they can adjust this any which way they want. I really wanted to have that because that's the way that the world is going in terms of being a musician, using this sort of stuff for live and for real life purposes. I know that's how me and my band operate, and that is, I think if I can instill that sort of mentality in them from an early age, then I think it's a good thing. It can only be a good thing. So as well as using my iPad to control the overall mix of everything, I also use it for my own practice. If I'm practicing for backing tracks, this iPad is connected to this dock here. There is the audio out, and that goes into two channels, these two channels in fact, and the XR18, and that controls both the audio coming from Jam Zone or anything else that I'm using, as well as the click coming from Jam Zone, and I can then route those to wherever I want to if I'm practicing for myself, for my own live gigs and stuff like that. I then also control the iPad with this little keyboard right here. Hopefully you can see me doing that. And that just means that while the kids are playing through the last run through of their song, for example, towards the end of the class, I can be typing away at their homework, get it sent to them before they even go out to the car, and it keeps me accountable as well, because I don't know about any music teachers out there listening, but I absolutely hate going back and doing homework the next day because I've forgotten what we've done. So this just makes things really, really accessible for me, really, really easy and straightforward to keep on top of my own admin and stuff like that. Now I mentioned over here that I have this little foot switch, and what I do is I plug in wirelessly to this, and this is for my guitar, and I can either go out to this one, which comes into my little Laney amp here and goes through this pedal board, which also has a drum machine built onto it. Or what I've been using recently is my little Valeton GP-200 X, which also has a drum machine built into it. So just depending on which channel I choose, this channel is the Valeton and that channel is the Laney, and it just gives me options. Of course, as I said, the GP-200 is on this blue channel right here, and then the Laney is on this red channel over here, so they still come into mixing station, meaning that they still can be heard perfectly through any of the headphone mixes. It also means that I can practice with this, and then that little foot switch there, which is charging at the moment, charging now because of the green light, that controls some of the parameters on my Jam Zone over here. So for example, that just presses play. Or if I wanted to go to the next song, I'd push another button, or go back to the start or stuff like that, or pause, or whatever. I just have that little foot switch programmed. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to show you was some of the lights that I have installed in the studio. So behind the TVs, I've just got really cheap LED lights that all they do is give just an ever so slight bit of atmosphere. That one's set to change, I think, yeah. And then I've got these two little lights in the corner, and they serve absolutely no functional purpose other than to just, like I said, give a bit of atmosphere, make it seem that bit more friendly and all that jazz. After all, the vast majority of people coming into this room are kids, kind of like age 10, and I want to make sure that it's the most encouraging and fun environment to be in, and that it doesn't just seem like a stuffy music room in some random Irish lad's house. Do you know what I mean? So that is it. That is my studio tour for 2025. If there's anything that I missed, please do give me a shout and let me know. And I will take you back around again and show you anything like that. Let me know in the comments what you thought, if you're going to implement any of the ideas that I've had. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.